This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Monday, the 23rd day of May in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. The governments of Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago have signed the Memorandum of Understanding for cooperation in a number of critical areas, including agriculture, trade, tourism, and culture. The MOU was signed by the foreign ministers of the two neighboring CARICOM states at State House on Sunday, under the eyes of President Irfaan Ali and the Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley. A special joint team will now be established by the two countries to ensure the implementation of the MOU. The MOU is also expected to see the two countries working with each other to enhance trade and investment and address those non-tariff barriers. The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry had called on the government not to sign the MOU until issues that affect the trade of some Guyanese products and produce with Trinidad were addressed. President Irfaan Ali said the discussion between the governments of Guyana and Trinidad have been very focused and have examined areas of missed opportunity and areas where there is a need for improvement in the relations.
It has been very positive and forward-looking. And I would say this, it was very frank, very open, and it gave us an opportunity not only to examine a sector, but it gave us an opportunity to take the bull by the horn, I would say, and to identify in a very open and frank way missed opportunities, to help us to identify opportunities in the future, blocks to the opportunities.
The private sector in Guyana has been pressing the government to get Trinidad and Tobago to remove some of the trade barriers that have been hampering the export of some Guyanese products to the Trinidadian market. The president said the two governments are not naive about the situation.
We are not naive. We are not unaware of impediments or blocks or constraints or challenges. And in our discussions, we took all of that into consideration. But what we have concluded and chartered is a joint commitment on how we're going to secure the futures of the people of these two countries.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, praised the steps taken by Guyana and his country to enhance their relations, but he warned against not working together for the betterment of each other and the community.
We are limited only by our own vision and our own commitment to do what has to be done. Once we commit ourselves to do what has to be done to improve our circumstances, nothing will prevent us from achieving success. On the other hand, if we are timid, if we are defensive, if we are malicious, if we are uncaring, then time will pass us by.
The MOU sets the stage for cooperation with the wider Caribbean also, as Caribbean leaders have set strict timelines to address issues such as food security and transportation and logistics. The Private Sector Commission has welcomed the signing of the MOU. The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry has also said it is satisfied with the details of the MOU. And over in Trinidad, the private sector there is also lending its support to the signing of the MOU. More news coming up in just a moment.
How fast is fiber? Think fast. GTT Fiber has 3 packages with download speeds of 50, 100, and 150 megabits per second. That's fast enough to stream movies and music, to chat with Gran and Fran, to study, and more. What would you do? Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
It's your real top girl, you don't know it's all about Genesis, Badlands, Poderation. So you don't know say King I got dede, young brother I got dede, and your real top girl I got dede. So make sure say every real top girl, every real top man roll out. Don't miss it, Zine. Yeah, now you know we exclusive. Poderation, bad thing.
With the approval of each new oil production project offshore, more jobs and opportunities are created onshore. And not just for those working in the oil and gas sector, more Guyanese are providing support services in transportation, catering, logistics, accommodation and hospitality, among many others. Oil and gas development is fueling Guyana's transformation.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of Mobil lubricants.
Yo, Atlanta is a big bad city vice pushing out the GT. Don't forget the 2019 we got in Bliss launch. Yeah, Atlanta we say city vice mushy live. You know, so we're gonna do some covers like bye bye bye. Must get that ting. Must get that thing. How we out at GT. All of the guys them a wine and shake. The Guyanese woman them a #1. Yo, flashback we say. Bliss launch 2019 Atlanta city vice mushy live. Keep my name out your mouth.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow can Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
come
full
get
color.
your Buster $100. Come get your Buster $100.
Days after voicing its objections to Guyana signing any new MOU with Trinidad and Tobago until the issue of trade tariffs, which affect Guyanese goods, is addressed, the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce is now expressing its satisfaction that there has been a public commitment by both Guyana and Trinidad to begin working on the issue with the aim of removing the trade barriers that affect the export of some Guyanese products to the Trinidadian market. In a statement after the two governments went ahead with the signing of the MOU, the Chamber said it notes that it is intended for a commission, as well as a timeline to be established for the removal of the barriers. The GCCI said the move is a step in the right direction, and it would like to encourage its private sector colleagues in Trinidad to support the Trinidadian government in the works to remove the trade barriers. The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry reiterated its role as a partner in the development of Guyana and its continued commitment to supporting private sector growth, adding that it remains willing to serve Guyana and the wider Caribbean to offer support in the work to remove the trade barriers in the region. Meanwhile, the Private Sector Commission of Guyana has welcomed the signing of the MOU between Guyana and Trinidad and sees it as renewed and enhanced cooperation between the two countries. The Commission said it recognizes the commitment made by the leaders of the two countries to collaborate in areas of trade and investment, agriculture and food security, along with security, energy and infrastructure. Through its council, which represents the interests of 23 business service organizations, the PSC says it will be taking steps to engage the private sector in Trinidad as well as the governments of both countries to establish a roadmap to move the commitments forward. Guyana and the rest of CARICOM are currently exploring a future trade and agricultural relationship with Brazilian investors in the state of Roraima. President Irfanali and the group of CARICOM leaders who were in Guyana for the Agriculture Investment Forum met with Brazilian private sector officials and officials of the Brazilian state of Roraima in Region 9 on Saturday. The meeting was aimed at examining how both CARICOM and Brazil can assist each other in the areas of agriculture production and even distribution.
You're talking here about a state that is producing onion, soya oil, wheat, all the grains that we can utilize CARICOM for all our food input needs. All the fruits that can go into our productive sector. But more importantly, everything they do on their side can be done on our side of the border.
The president said he believes the CARICOM-Brazil relationship could be of great benefit to Guyana also. He said the Brazilian team has already provided some commitments.
They have offered their technology, they have offered their investment, they have offered their partnership, and they have offered their commitment. In exchange, we have committed to taking to the heads a proposal that the state of Roraima be part of the Ministerial Task Force on Agriculture from CARICOM. We have invited them to be part of the forum in Trinidad and Tobago in August, and they are going to be part of that forum.
CARICOM sees cooperation with Brazil as an excellent opportunity for the region and its quest to reduce food imports into the region while building a stronger agriculture sector. Let's tell you now that heavy and consistent rainfall in Region 9 has resulted in significant flooding in a number of communities across that region, forcing several families into shelters. In a statement, the Civil Defense Commission said due to the consistent rainfall in the area, water levels continue to rise from deep south to the South Pacaraimas. The Regional Democratic Council, the Lethem Town Council, and the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development have operationalized a shelter to house approximately 7 families. Affected residents have already been moved to the facility. The CDC has also activated its Regional Disaster Risk Management Center to serve as a secondary shelter to accommodate more displaced persons. The CDC is also working with regional and municipal authorities to deliver water purification tablets, water containers, cleaning hampers, and other essential supplies to residents of the affected communities. 2 boats have also been deployed by the CDC to aid the RDC with its relief efforts. The Hydromet Service is predicting significant and consistent rainfall countrywide for the next 24 hours. The Commission said it is monitoring all regions closely, along with the regional bodies. Residents of low-lying, flooded and flood-prone areas are urged to be vigilant and to take precautions where necessary. The National Emergency Service can be contacted 24 hours a day on telephone number 600-7500 or 226-1114 to report any impacts. Opposition Chief Whip Christopher Jones has moved to the High Court to scrap the appointment of Clifton Hicken as the acting police commissioner, while seeking an order to render all actions taken by Hicken as acting top cop null and void. In an application to the court filed by Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford and Attorney Selwyn Peters, Mr. Jones is petitioning the court to declare that the invocation of the doctrine of necessity, under which the President used to appoint Mr. Hicken as the acting Commissioner of Police, is unreasonable, ultra vires under the Constitution, common law, and is illegal, null, void, and of no legal effect. Back in March, when President Irfan Ali announced the appointment of Hicken, the opposition threatened to challenge the appointment, arguing, among other things, that there was no consultation between the president and the leader of the opposition, and that the next person in base on seniority to perform the duties of police commissioner should be Deputy Police Commissioner Paul Williams, since Mr. Hicken is junior to Mr. Williams. Jones, in his detailed affidavit, argued that the president has breached long-established procedures, where after a police commissioner or acting commissioner proceeds on leave, the most senior officer at the time would take the reins of the force. He reminded that the force was without a substantive commissioner of police since Mr. Leslie James proceeded on pre-retirement leave, and Mr. Hoppy was performing the functions of the office, and made out the case that Mr. Hoppy proceeded on his pre-retirement leave. The next senior person should have been appointed. Jones also told the court that there has been no publication in the official Gazette or any other published legal document which attests to or substantively proves that Mr. Hicken, as the appointed acting Commissioner of Police, is in fact sitting in that office legally. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions today lashed out at critics of her decision to discontinue the private criminal charge that was filed by a woman police constable against Attorney Nirvan Singh over Singh's alleged use of racial statements towards a police constable. Last week, the DPP defended her decision to discontinue the case by indicating that the evidence in the case did not support the charge. In a follow-up statement today, the DPP's office again defended that decision, but this time critics found themselves in the crosshairs of the DPP. The DPP chamber said it will continue to operate in accordance with the Constitution of Guyana and the relevant laws which are concerned in each case. According to the DPP, it can boast of its professional approach to all cases receiving attention and assures the public that the office will continue to remain apolitical and act in a lawful and professional manner, devoid of any prejudices. The office also said it will not be intimidated or hindered by cheap and baseless attempts on partisan positions in carrying out its constitutional functions. Last week, the charges against the attorney, who is the son of retired Chancellor Carl Singh, were dropped after the court received a letter from the office of the DPP indicating that the matter should be discontinued. That decision came under heavy criticism from the attorney for the police constable as well as political opposition parties. The police constable, who filed a private criminal charge, also staged a protest in front of the DPP's office, declaring that the DPP has stripped her of her quest for justice. Hours before an exhibition featuring Guyana's move to independence in 1966 was set to open at the National Library, the organizer of the event, the Burnham Foundation, was told that the National Library could no longer host the Independence exhibition. In a statement this morning, the chairperson of the Burnham Foundation, Vincent Alexander, said permission was sought and granted for the hosting of the exhibition more than 3 weeks ago, on the 25th of April. He explained that last week, the Burnham Foundation met with the officials of the National Library and details on the mounting of the photo exhibits were provided. The exhibition was set to open today. Mr. Alexander said he received a call from the chief librarian minutes before the exhibits were to be mounted, informing him that the Independence exhibition by the Burnham Foundation could no longer be hosted at the National Library. He said the chief librarian indicated that the library was now in need of the space in the foyer of the National Library where the exhibition would have been hosted. Alexander is convinced that the decision to revoke permission for the hosting of the exhibition came directly from the government. He said the PP Civic once again shows its dictatorial hand in its attempt to rewrite Guyana's history and to impose itself on the people of Guyana through the total control of the political, social, and economic landscape, while the president mouths one Guyana for local and global consumption. Efforts to get a comment from the chief librarian, Emily King, were futile. News source was told that she was attending a meeting. Guyana gained independence on the 26th of May, 1966, under the then Forbes Burnham-led PNC government, with support from Dr. Chelly Jagan and his People's Progressive Party. Both political leaders were committed to Guyana moving away from British rule and becoming an independent nation. The Ministry of Education is reporting tonight that the Ministry of Works has issued a certification of inspection approving the electrical works which were carried out at the Tugville primary and secondary schools over the past few weeks. Today, during an impromptu meeting with the parents and some students of the school, the Chief Education Officer, Dr. Marcel Hudson, provided parents with a comprehensive update on all the issues that were highlighted to be addressed and remedied at the school. The majority of the issues were electrical. The Ministry of Education said the works were actively addressed with a view of having them completed within the shortest possible time. Officers from the Ministry of Education visited the school on Sunday, including the Chief Education Officer and the Assistant Chief Education Officer, to assess the progress. Dr. Hudson explained to the parents that their concerns are valid and that the Ministry is on board with them to have the schools brought to a state where their children can return and be educated in a safe environment. He encouraged all the parents and the teachers present to work in a spirit of collaboration, to which everyone agreed as the meeting was ended. Further additional remedial works will be completed at the school over the next week before allowing the students to return.
Yo, Atlanta is a big bad city vice pushing out the GT. Don't forget the 29th May we got Bliss launch. Yeah, Atlanta we say city vice mushy live. You know, so we're gonna do some covers like bye. Must get a ting. Must get a ting. How we out a GT. All of the girls them a wine and shake. The Guyanese woman them a #1. Yo, flashback we say Bliss launch 29th May. Atlanta city vice mushy live. Keep my name out your mouth.
Have you heard the news?
CPL is back.
Done! Yes! The finals coming to Guyana. Absolutely brilliant.
It's going to be a carnival of cricket.
It's going to be a carnival of cricket.
It's going to be a carnival of cricket.
See you
your friend. Watch Guyanese girl, them a hurtle, and them a do it in a circle. Watch me, missing each and every year. Flashback come again. Tell it to your enemy and tell it to your friend. Well, if you're ready for the party, you then flashback, tell them a the trend. Follow me sing. This are not butterfly nor no bees. No girl can whine like Guyanese. Watch the young them a do it in a circle. Guyanese girls them a dance in a circle. Hear me and say no, me go banter. You know I sound boy killer represent the Golden Smile family. You know say flashback to a school party. You know say oh the vibes is plenty. Slow down.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get
color.
your Buster, Buster $100. Come get your Buster, Buster $100.
Fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up. Fuel it up and drive, super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Oil's Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Oil's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, from this Wednesday, vaccinated persons traveling to Barbados will no longer be required to present a COVID-19 test result in order to enter Barbados. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Mia Mottley during a press conference in Barbados. She said given the downward trajectory of the positive COVID-19 patients the island has been recording since its initial spike in March, health officials had agreed that a slight relaxation in some of the protocols could be done in a cautious manner. The Prime Minister stressed that if any new variant of the disease presented itself, measures to help combat the infection rate would be reintroduced. The Prime Minister said that the Ministry of Health in Barbados has advised that all persons who are vaccinated and are traveling to Barbados will no longer need to go there with any kind of test results. She said they are removing testing for vaccinated persons traveling to Barbados. Unvaccinated persons will still have to get tested. Trinidad's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has announced that Trinidad and Tobago has been chosen to receive funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which he described as not insignificant. Dr. Rowley made the announcement at a news conference he hosted at the Piarco Airport in Trinidad on Sunday after he arrived there from Guyana. He said Trinidad and Tobago is lucky to be identified for a not insignificant share of some funding to be made available from the Bill Gates Foundation. Dr. Rowley said he spoke to the Secretary General of the United Nations, who has identified Trinidad and Tobago for the gift that they will accept and put to good use. He did not explain why Trinidad and Tobago has been qualified for the funding or what it will be used for. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation works to help people lead healthy, productive lives, and particularly in developing countries, it focuses on improving people's health and giving them the chance to live themselves out of hunger and extreme poverty. And finally tonight, international news. Biden administration officials in the U.S. are considering inviting a Cuban representative to the U.S.-hosted Summit of the Americas. A person familiar with the matter said, as Washington scrambled to head off a potentially embarrassing boycott by some regional leaders. Discussion has focused on allowing a Cuban representative at next month's Los Angeles summit below the level of the country's president or foreign minister. But it is an early stage and no decision has been made, the source told the Reuters news agency. President Joe Biden's aides were weighing the idea as his administration began sending out invitations for the summit. But for now, U.S. officials declined to say what countries were on the list or whether the leaders of Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua would be excluded. A growing number of leaders, including the President of Mexico, have threatened to skip the summit unless all countries in the region are allowed to attend. The prospect for summit no-shows risks diplomatic failure for Biden, whose aides have hoped the summit, held every 3 or 4 years, would be a chance to reassert Washington's commitment to a region it is often accused of neglecting. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.